Hello there, and I'm going to do a deck profile for Danger Dark Worlds. Considering it's already Master Rule 5, there's now a bigger chance for us to summon extra deck monsters on the field that are not links. So back then, when I used to run Dark Worlds, I had to be really reliant on the Xyz monsters, rank 4s and rank 8s, abusing Grapha and Beige. And when links came out, you had to form your link monsters before you could even do anything. So when MR5 came out, that was cool, but with some changes. So here's the deck. Monsters. Here's Nessie. Really good way to search out cards from your deck. Danger Nessie. All the dangers share the same effect, that you show them to your opponent, then you shuffle your hand. They choose one card. If they get to choose the card you've declared, then it gets discarded. If it's not, it gets summoned to the field and you get to draw a card. These guys, when they get discarded, they get additional effects. So Nessie, when Nessie gets discarded, you search your deck for a danger danger monster. I might be wrong if it's monster or card, but I normally just search out monsters for this. Next danger is Mothman. I used to run 3, now I only run 2 because of lack of space from the deck. Aside from the effects that I mentioned from dangers, the effect of this is basically Dark World Deal, where you draw a card, then you discard a card. You and your opponent do that. So with the Dark World cards, this is a huge advantage, and if you discard more dangers, more effects. Chupacabra special summons a danger from the graveyard, except for itself. Not bad. 2 copies of Jackalope. It got semi-limited, unfortunately. It summons a danger from the deck, so that's how painful it is. If Nessie searches, this is your summoner. Then, level 8, Thunderbird, I have 2, destroys face down card on the field. Another level 8, Bigfoot, and you know what they say about having a big foot. If you have a big foot, you can destroy a face-up card on the field, on the opponent's field. Chucky, my favorite. I only run 2 because I don't have a 3rd copy, unfortunately. I would run 3 of this if possible. If this card gets discarded, you get to summon it. So either way, this will get summoned. It's a really good way to build on 3. Now, speaking of the Dark Worlds, we have Papagrapha. I used to run 3 of this back in the old Dark World build. Now I just run 2. And it destroys a card on your opponent's field if it gets discarded. The basics of the Dark World is that if it's discarded by an effect, anyway, it is discarded by an effect, except for cost, it will activate an effect. And if it's discarded by your opponent's effect, it has additional effects. If it's discarded in any way, it will destroy a card on the field, on your opponent's side of the field. If it's discarded by your opponent, you get to look at one of their hand cards, and I forgot the rest because it rarely happens. But to summon this, you have to have, if it's in the graveyard, you can summon it by returning a face-up Dark World card on the monster on the field to your hand, and it gets summoned, and it's not once per turn. Dark World Snow, your searcher. If it gets discarded, you search for a Dark World card, not monster, but card. And then if it's your opponent that discards it, you basically do Monster Reborn. Brow, I run 2. If it's discarded, you draw 1. If your opponent discards it, you draw 2. Straightforward. Then Beige, if it's discarded, you summon it to the field. It has no other effect. It's a great way to bring back Grapha. It's a great way to build rank 4s. It's a great way to fill the field. That's your lineup there for the Dark World and the dangers. Then the one-ofs. Armageddonite dumps dark monsters to the graveyard. You can dump Grapha to make it faster. You can dump the other dark monsters here to build your deck, to thin out your deck. So there's Armageddonite. Shadow Beast. If it's sent to the graveyard anyway, you draw a card. Straightforward. Fairy Tale Snow. Banish 7 from the graveyard and the hand or from the, I forgot if it's on the field as well, but you banish 7. You get to summon this from the graveyard or the hand. And then what it does is Book of Moon. So it's a walking Book of Moon, and it's not once per turn. So it's a really great card. Floats. Black Feather Zephyrus. It's also a floater, but you can only do it once per duel. You return to hand a face up. Is it face up? And then you get damage of 400. Then it gets summoned to the field, and you basically get a monster, a floater. And then Dookie Pole. It searches out an insect from the deck, and Mothman happens to be an insect. So it's a great way to use with Danger Mothman, and then you can do Dark World shenanigans. For the spells, oddly enough, I run Mask Change 2. Back then, I wouldn't run Mask Change 2 because I had to set up link markers. That way I could summon Mask Hero Dark Law. So I had to like set this up and all. I can't do the danger shenanigans that I had to do. Now, thanks to Master Roll 5, I can confidently activate it immediately, then just summon out my Dark Law onto the field without worrying about the link marker. Foolish Burial does the same thing that I normally do with Armageddon Knight, but this time it's not exclusive to dark monsters. Danger, I forgot the name of this. It's Danger Research Room or something. If it's in the graveyard, you can return to the bottom of the deck, then you draw a card. And then if you have a danger on the field and another monster, you return them to hand. It makes you recycle your dangers that are on the field. So that means if you didn't get their effect immediately, you get to return them, and then you can try again. Card destruction, all the way from the old Yugi starter deck. Discard everything on the hand, both you and your opponent, then you draw the equal amount. Triggers dangers, triggers dark worlds, messes up hand cards. Pot of Avarice, recycle cards. You're going to be sending a lot of cards to the graveyard, so Pot of Avarice is there for you. And then you draw 2 cards. Beginning of the End. Almost has no artwork there, but if you could see it nicely there, it has really, really subtle art. You banish 5 from the graveyard that are dark monsters, then you draw 3. But you have to make sure that there's 7 dark monsters in the graveyard, and lo and behold, almost every card in the deck is dark. Draw 3. Think of that. I showed you that I had quite a few level 8s, so trade in, draw 2 cards by using a level 8 as a cost. Now remember, Dark World Grapha will not work as a cost, but the danger monsters will, so this is a plus. Dark World Deal, I run 2. You and your opponent will draw a card, then discard a card, and this is not a cost. So the Dark World cards will be activated and the danger cards will be activated. This is good. Allure of Darkness, you draw 2 cards and then you banish a dark. If you weren't able to banish a dark, you discard your entire hand. Considering that most of the deck is dark, you will be banishing something. Now, for the extra deck, the extra deck isn't quite perfect. There are quite a few things that I would still edit with this. Of course, I mentioned earlier Dark Law. It's a really great card that banishes a lot of cards. Whatever happens with the opponent, especially with the danger cards, you make them draw a lot, you have a chance to banish one of their hand cards, and then if cards get sent to the graveyard on your opponent's side of the field, they get banished instead. So this is a great card here. I forgot the archetype. Lightsworn Priestess. You mill. Makes it go faster to the grave. Griffin. Nightmare Griffin. It's a good control card, and you get to recycle cards from the graveyard, especially spells, especially Mask Change or other spells you want to recycle. Number 68. It's a rank 8. It's a dark. It's got a good effect. It comes to the graveyard. And then I run number 84. I put this on top of this. and then I run number 77. Now 84 and 77 have really crazy effects when it comes to the number of level on the field, and number 77 also does the same. No, not the same, but rather a rather similar effect related to cards that are on its material. So I normally like just stack these. Leviar, you are running a lot of level 3, especially with Chuchinoko and Brow. So there's a lot of things that's going to be banished. So you get to summon those banished monsters. Heretic Atum, it's a rank 8. You discard, you tribute monsters from hand or field, and then you destroy the equal number of cards on the field that you've tributed. It's a great way to destroy your opponent's field. Number 38. This guy can really mess up your opponent's plays when it comes to spells. And then what happens is if your opponent activates a spell card, you can negate it and then use it as a material. So you add it to its material. And then if your opponent declares an attack, you can remove a material here, and then number 38 becomes the target of the attack. So it's a great way to protect your field. I forgot the sorceress name here, but she uses 2 dark monsters as material. Abyss Driller messes up graveyards. It's an Archfiend. I forgot the full name, but it's a 2000 attack monster that uses 2 fiends, and a lot of the monsters are fiends. So why not? Number 39, Utopia. Chaos number 39 to stack that. And then Lightning, Utopia Lightning as number 39. You remove 2 materials from this guy, and then you get to double its attack, 2/5, and then your opponent can't activate anything, so it becomes a 5k monster. And you have a lot of level 4, so this is why there's this. So that's this extra deck. As for the side deck, my side deck is rather odd. I run 1 copy of Anti-Spell Fragrance. You activate this, and then all spell cards have to be set before they're activated. And considering that we are running dangers that can destroy cards that are set on the field, this basically slows down your opponent. Another copy of Trade-In, just in case. Eater of Millions. You banish at least 5 from the extra deck, the field, or the hand. At least 5. Banish them face down, and then it gets summoned to the field. Its attack is equal to the number of face down banished cards on either side. And if it attacks a monster on the field, you banish it face down instead of destroying it once per turn. It's really great. As long as it's involved in battle. 2 copies of Chaos Hunter. It messes up banished decks, so if your opponent does use a lot of banishing, you can use this instead on the field. My 3rd copy of Mothman, just in case it's needed. 2 copies of Droll Lockbird. Many people do searches, and that messes up their search. A 3rd copy of Brow, because why not? Mind Control. It's a really great card. It takes control of an opponent's monster. You cannot use it for attack. You cannot use it to tribute summon a monster, but you can use them for link, you can use them for synchros, you can use them for XCs. So it's a great way to mess with your field. I have 2 kaiju of different name. I forgot their name. It's basically Mothra and the other one. My Gamma Shells are in another deck, so I'm using these guys. And then, of course, Pankra. You can't go wrong with Pankra. So that's the entire deck. I hope you enjoyed it. There's a lot of things to be improved with this deck. I haven't played in a long time, thanks to the quarantine. But hopefully we'll all play again soon. Stay safe, guys.